Hi, I'm Greg Hackney, and I want to talk to you a little bit today about jig trailers. I wouldn't say I use a bunch of jig trailers, but I do use several, but I try to keep it as simple as possible. A few conditions, the reasons that I would change, why I would not use one across the board. Honestly, if I could only use one, it would probably be a standard size rage crawl. That's hard to beat on a jig. I can swim it, I can flip it, do a lot of things with it. But there are those situations, whether it be highly pressured fish, clear water, cold water, when I'll tweak it a little bit, tweak my trailer. Sometimes it needs to be downsized, things like that. This is the fluorocarbon flipping jig, which is smaller than my Hack Attack flipping jig. A little more downsized version of the Hack Attack flipping jig. Trailers for it, I like a baby rage crawl in it would be my first choice. Number 2 on that would be a Rage Menace grub, and number 3 would be a KVD chunk, which comes in 2 sizes. This is the senior, and a lot of times I will reach for the junior, which is about half this size on that smaller jig. Now the reasons for that, most of the time when I pick up this jig, for me personally, I want a smaller profile jig. If I needed a big blown up jig, I would use the regular Hack Attack flipping jig. But when I pick up this jig, I want a smaller package, and that's when I'm gonna lean more towards these smaller trailers. Warmer water, more of the Menace, more of the Rage Crawl, they have a great swimming action. Colder water is typically the only time that I switch to a chunk. And the reason for that is I'm wanting a bigger profile, but I don't want any action. The Rage Crawl, typically 50 degrees and above, I'm sticking with some type of Rage trailer. But when that water gets below 50 and I want to slow that jig down, but I don't necessarily want to make it smaller, that's when I'll use the chunk, because I got a big profile and not a lot of action. But day in and day out, a regular Rage Crawl is probably, my number 1 or most used pick. And in certain situations, I go to a lobster, and a Rage Lobster, which is, twice the size of a regular Rage Crawl. And the reason I'll do that is I want to slow that jig down. That Rage Lobster pulls so much water, it just what I call free floating that jig, and it's a big profile. And typically, more times than not, when I'm doing that, I'm only pitching a 1/2 ounce Hack Attack flipping jig, and I'm putting that Rage Lobster on there because I'm fishing shallow around heavy cover. Could be a situation where fish are suspended. I'm wanting that bait to hang up a lot. And what I mean by that, I just want it to hang in the water column, stay in the strike zone a little longer, or it can be a situation when I just want a big, slow moving bait and attract bigger bites. More times than not, when I reach for a lobster on the back of a jig, I am fishing for bigger than average fish. Whether that's, typically 3 pounds or bigger. I consider a 3-pounder a good one, but when I'm around a lot of fish that are in that, 3 to 7 pound range, if I can get by with it, I like that lobster. I feel like it does it. The rest of the time, standard Rage Crawl, again, standard colors. I just try to match, my jig trailer together. I don't do a lot of mix matching in that I don't use a green pumpkin jig with a black and blue trailer. Most of the time I'm using some flavor of green pumpkin on a green pumpkin jig. A black jig, I'm using some type of black trailer. You know what I'm saying? I try to keep it simple, and I want it to look good. When I pick that jig up, I want it to match. I want it to look natural. Whatever trailer and jig combination I'm using, I want it to look natural. I want it to look like something in nature, because in my mind, that will get me a few extra bites. The closest I can be to whatever that fish is feeding on, the better chance I have of getting an extra 1 or 2 bites.
And if you don't know, now you know.